So what we're going to be talking about next is a couple of different things. We're going back to the world of HubSpot. And if you've been following the news recently, if you've been following HubSpot, if you've been seeing what they've been doing, they've been churning out a massive number of updates. There's been a lot of change, there's been a lot of launches, and there's a lot of noise in the AI space as well. There's two particular products that I want to talk about, which is the Content Hub and the Service Hub, and specifically how they relate to the existing Marketing Hub and how that fits into the whole world of AI. And I'm going to do all of that in around 30 minutes, which is a bit of a stretch for me. I do tend to go off topic a little bit, I apologize. For those who don't know me, my name is Clwyd Probert. I'm the CEO of WHitehat. We're a diamond-level HubSpot partner. We've been partners for over 8 years. I personally have a background in AI. I've been doing AI for over 20 years. I used to run a tech company building AI systems for investment banks and hedge funds. So I've got some history in this space, and it's interesting to see it actually turning into more mainstream. So here is a slide I put up over a year ago when I gave a presentation about AI everywhere. This was literally just after the launch of GPT-4. And I made some predictions at that time, and you've got to be really careful about predictions, particularly ones that involve the future. But I fired this up because I thought it was worth mentioning, because there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and what I'm trying to do with the community is to educate, to try and teach, to let you know what's worth putting your focus on, particularly as an individual, but also as a company, as organizations, because you can waste a lot of time going down the rabbit hole of AI. So I'm not going to read all of this, but the first paragraph is really what I thought at the time, and I think it's pretty much spot on, is for the next 18 months, again, this was a year ago, lots of noise, discussion, wild claims and counterclaims, and I think probably everybody would agree that that is what's actually happened. Impact on productivity within companies, 0, possibly negative. That's an interesting one. I think that's probably true. There's a lot of stuff happening, but I don't know how it's impacting businesses. Impact on jobs. Everybody's worried about everybody's going to become unemployed overnight. Universal income, we're all going to be either in a dystopia or a utopian environment. No, not in the short term, at least. The interesting thing is that the terms short term, medium term, and long term have completely changed. When everybody spoke about long term, that was 30, 50 years in the future, and therefore you could ignore it. Long term is now 5 years, which is seriously scary because it's something that we can grasp, something that we can project forward, and it affects us and affects our children. And the medium term is only 2 to 5 years. So, and we're moving now into that 2 to 5 year period, and that's what I want to cover today, because I think we're transitioning over from a point where AI is noise to AI actually becomes useful, becomes productive, and starts to have an impact on profitability, productivity, and jobs. Having said that, let's go back to HubSpot. Now, HubSpot launched something called Content Hub, which used to be called CMS Hub. And CMS Hub is what everybody used to call website builder. CMS stands for Content Management System. Everybody's heard of things like WordPress and such. HubSpot have had a web product for many years. I know we've got agency partners here who I've been working with and we've known who have been building HubSpot websites for many, many years. But in the early days, it was really almost a secondary product to the Marketing Hub and eventually the Sales Hub that was launched. I think what this means, and again, there's literally hundreds of different pieces of functionality, and I'm not going to go through them. What I'm trying to give you is an overview of how things are changing in the HubSpot ecosystem and what that means if you're thinking about buying it, or if you have Marketing Hub or the CMS Hub at the moment. So the way to think about this is actually the word content, CMS, Content Management System. HubSpot are going all in on the idea of content. So a website is not just a series of web pages, there's a lot behind the scenes, and things such as blog posts, videos, landing pages, these were all things that existed within Marketing Hub. If you purchased Marketing Hub prior to this launch, you could build out landing pages, you could build out a blog, you could build out multiple blogs. And you didn't need anything else. You didn't actually need a CMS system. You could put it on top of your WordPress website, and all of those different website pages, called landing pages, and blogs could also be built using the marketing product. That is no longer the case. That functionality, those web pages, those blog posts, are no longer part of Marketing Hub. They are part of Content Hub. So they're splitting the functionality, they're shuffling things around. Which means, in terms of the Content Hub and the website builder, the functionality is much improved. And it's a really rich system. Of course, what HubSpot wants you to do is to buy both, because then you get the benefit of, well, why do you buy Marketing Hub? What's the point of Marketing Hub anymore? Well, Marketing Hub is the traditional HubSpot marketing automation tool. So if you want workflows, if you want rules, if you want social, those things are still within Marketing Hub. And of course, everybody wants both, so they've come up, obviously HubSpot's pricing structure has never been particularly clear, but they've managed to muddy it even further. They've created something called Marketing Plus, which is the combination of Marketing Hub and Content Hub. There's a lot of information out there, and I'm not going to go through it, but that's the kind of the focus, the change, the rebalance. My understanding is that if you are running Marketing Hub at the moment, nothing changes. They're not going to force you yet to move over to a different pricing model, to a different structure. You will be grandfathered in, and you'll be able to keep your existing system. How long that lasts, I do not know. One of the things I would highlight within it, there's a ton of functionality. They throw AI around as though it's confetti, and most of it can honestly be ignored. You're better off with ChatGPT and cut and paste. That will change. I'm sure it will get better, and they're putting a lot of an effort and time into putting AI into the product. But at the moment, from our perspective and how we're using it ourselves and how our clients are using it, there's not a lot of massive value for the AI system within HubSpot. And that's interesting for me to say, because I live and breathe this sort of every day. Having said that, there are some small elements which do make sense. Things like social media creation, meta creation, titles, all these type of things. But really don't use it to create content, even though you can. Sometimes just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. It is not good at writing. It's good at giving you ideas, blank page syndrome, that type of thing. But really, you are going to be competing with a lot of other people in this space, and the only way you can compete with content is to create quality content, which means use professional writers and get value out there. Having said that, this content remix tool is potentially really interesting. We've preached to this community over the years about content distribution and the expansion of content. So you might, for example, classic example, we've got a talk today, multiple different speakers. This is going to be recorded. We've got sound. It will get turned into a blog post. It will get turned into a podcast. It will get turned into a multiple series of social media posts. There'll be an email campaign. So it's taking one particular piece of content and repurposing it in multiple different formats, and they've automated that process, and that is valuable. So I would definitely look at that. They've got something called Brand Tools, which allows you to give it a blog post and it'll come up with brand voice. So when it auto-generates content, it's supposed to sound in the same way that your brand does. It really doesn't. Honestly, it doesn't. So that's all I'm going to say on Content Hub. Strangely enough, Service Hub is something that as an agency we've largely, I wouldn't say ignored, but we've downplayed its value over the years. It's been the sort of ugly child of the HubSpot world. I can say that because there's no HubSpot people here today, although they're probably listening. There's always been something slightly better out there, whether it's Zendesk or at the top end, the Salesforce Service Cloud is enterprise level functionality, and this isn't that. Having said that, the relaunch has added a huge number of functionality pieces. The usability has improved dramatically, and it is now an acceptable piece of technology that can deliver to small and medium-sized businesses. Again, look, this is the free tools. There's just tons of stuff across the multiple different spheres. The interesting thing, what I want to talk about now, and I just want to make sure I've got enough time to cover this, is I'll talk you through the basic idea, but here's a statistic that stuck in my head, and I didn't really figure out how big this market is. Everybody knows Salesforce. Where's Edwin? Edwin's here somewhere. There he is. He's our resident Salesforce expert. But people know Salesforce because of its CRM, right? Everybody's Salesforce CRM, they're completely synonymous. Massive amounts of revenue, tens of billions, I don't know what their market cap is, something like that. Hundreds of billions of dollars. Salesforce Service Cloud makes more money for Salesforce than their CRM product. This is true. You didn't know that. There you go. Unbelievable. The reason is think about this, these large enterprises with their service teams and the software needed to service and support them is huge. There is a massive infrastructure out there. And if you take that and you project it downwards to the middle, to the mid-tier companies and to the small companies and to the individual startups, service is an expense. It's incredibly difficult to do well. I mean, we've all got experience of phoning people up, trying to get things done, phone trees, all of these terrible experiences with service. And software has been used as a way of trying to address that, but it doesn't do it particularly well. One of the values that HubSpot brings to the table is the unified view of customer. So if you were to buy Zendesk, the problem is that Zendesk doesn't then give you access to your sales history, to your marketing history, to all those other integrated systems. It's hard work to get all of that plumbed together. HubSpot, as a unified platform, gives you this single view of customer, which is the value. And if it's done well, you can actually dramatically improve your customer experience. Now, what I actually wanted to talk about, that's kind of standard HubSpot messaging. Nothing really new, nothing particularly exciting. It's interesting, it's great, but everybody has been focusing on AI and how it affects the service industry. And we've looked at this in a lot of detail. There's many studies by IBM. Accenture, both Accenture and Ernst & Young, I believe, reported $250 million in revenue this year for the first 3 months based on AI implementation within organizations. So these are companies that are not creating their own AI models, they're just implementing AI in the large enterprises. Each one $250 million over 3 months. Now, people in this room don't have that kind of money to spend, so nobody's going to be hiring Accenture to come and do your AI implementation. But think about it. What's the value that is being delivered in this work? It's all of those people sitting in those service desks, answering the phone, engaging with people, solving problems. If that enterprise level service was available to the small and medium-sized businesses, then that affects your profitability, it affects your bottom line, it improves your customer service. We have a client who is medium level, SaaS-based company, 20 people, global reach, and 3 of their employees, 3 of those 20, are service and support. It's actually a big part of their cost. But they can only answer the phone a certain number of hours a day. Some of them are junior, one of them is very, very senior. It's a cost center, it's not a revenue center. And the idea, the vision, if you like, is that cost can be replaced or enhanced with an AI system that knows your business, knows your products, knows your services, knows your pricing, and is able to engage with people on a one-to-one basis, consistently, brand message. So this is the vision. And HubSpot have almost missed the point here. They've done something amazing, but then stopped. So let me talk you through it. If anybody has experience with service, is anybody here using Service Hub? Just a vague, yeah, so a fair number. One of the features of professional level Service Hub and above is something called a knowledge base. And this is a place where you can write up and publish questions that that need to be asked, that are typically asked by customers or prospects on the system. It's a useful tool. It's been around for a few years. Very few people actually use it. If you were to build an AI system for a corporation, what you actually have to do is you take a custom AI model and you train it on your own data. You have to write a huge number of very structured questions and answers so that the AI understands the tone, the way it's supposed to respond. And this can literally cost tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of pounds to get that data all in the right format, to train the system. And what you end up with is a system that obviously knows your software, but it's then locked in time. And it is expensive because you've now got a custom model. And the building and running of those custom models is a multiple of the baseline of the AI. So it's expensive, takes a lot of time, and most people in the SM and small and medium-sized businesses can't afford it. And they don't even know how to do it even if they could afford it. HubSpot have actually solved that. They've allowed the AI system to train on your knowledge base. And it's really easy. You set up your knowledge base like you did before, you point the AI system at it, and you say, go. And away it goes. It indexes all of those things, and you end up with a custom chatbot that is able to answer questions based on your knowledge base, and that knowledge base can be as big as you like. It is super powerful, it is underplayed, and it can be really, really useful. But it has limits, and this is the problem. That chatbot, you get essentially one trained on all of this data, and then that's it. There's no way of configuring it. There's no way of telling it what to do when somebody comes up with a particular question. Maybe you want to turn it into a bit of a sales tool. Maybe you want to give it a series of custom URLs to direct people to. Maybe there's particular questions that it should answer in a particular way. You can't do that. It's out of the box. You run it and you get what you get. So, wouldn't it be nice is if you could combine the very best of cutting-edge AI and put it on top of what HubSpot have actually delivered and do it relatively cheaply. So, anybody know who that is? Anybody?
OpenAI CTO.
The OpenAI CTO, Mira Murati, absolutely correct. OpenAI launched GPT-4o, Omni, obviously, yesterday. And in many ways, it's a small incremental improvement on the current model. And that's what a lot of the noise and the chatter is about, is like, my gosh, it's 12 months and they haven't actually released version 5. It's you know, has the AI revolution come to a stop? This is actually a significant release. Specifically for this community, for businesses, for marketers, and for service and support. And the reason is it gives a couple of different improvements. One is massive speed improvements. Super cheap. If you're using the free version of GPT 3.5, which is really terrible, they are making this version free to everybody worldwide. But more than anything else, it has native streaming of all different channels. So what that means is that the model can input and output and process voice in real time. Whereas before, what actually happened is that it would take a voice, transcribe it into text, pass it to the model, get an answer, take that text, turn it into a voice and squirt it back out again. Doesn't sound like a big change, but what it means is that that model can understand tone, it can understand intonation, intent, language, and because it's streamed in real time, it's not like a CB radio conversation where you send a message, you wait for the message to come back, you listen for a couple of seconds. It's a conversation in the same way that I'm talking now, or that Filippo and I were speaking before. It can interrupt, it can be interrupted. Why is that important? Think about what I said about service and support. Now imagine you take that, you train it on your corporate knowledge base, and you put it as a chatbot on your system. You've effectively got a representative that can work 24 hours a day for you, that can actually talk. But even without the talk bit, the text side of it is really, really important. So why is this important? Because obviously OpenAI have their own model. You don't know what's inside HubSpot. You've got no access to the underlying model. Shout out to our own tech team here. We've managed to build an integration to the OpenAI assistant model, which is effectively what this is, and build it into the HubSpot chatbot system. So it's something like 15,000 lines of code if you want to read it, but effectively it gives you a customizable chatbot trained on your own data, and you can have a different one for every different page. You can give it intent, you can give it goals, and it will learn. What does that mean? It means that those conversations that you're having are recorded. We can then look at, maybe the chatbot doesn't answer the question correctly. We can then go back and change the instructions very easily and improve it over time. So we haven't launched this yet. It's not a product, it's not a service, but we will be looking for early adopters to work with, and we've got a couple that we're working with at the moment. But this is the future of support. It augments and doesn't supplant yet, but it certainly helps. It brings this enterprise level capability down to the small business. And I think this is where AI is going in our world, right? There are big corporates and big companies spending tens and hundreds of thousands on their marketing, and they've got big teams, big agencies. We're reasonably sized agencies. There's a number of other agencies in the room. It costs a lot of money to hire somebody like me or my team or one of the others to do this stuff for you, right? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to start doing this for yourself? And I think this is where this is going. This is my final slide. One of the things that we are trying to do is to educate and to try and teach people about the capabilities. Microsoft put out a study a couple of days ago where they looked at AI usage within large corporates, and they found that 70% of the employees were using AI regularly during the week. 70%, which I thought was really quite high. 80% of those companies had no AI policy in place. So what that means is that everybody is using it, but they're just not telling anybody that they're using it. There is no consistency. There is no standard operating procedures. And it's largely because nobody quite knows how you should be doing this, what you should be doing, what are the best practices, because it's all new and it's moving so fast. So one of my recommendations, and we speak at various events and about this, is the appointment of it looks like Chow, doesn't it? A chief AI officer. This is a recommendation that companies should set up at the board level, senior management level, somebody who has ownership of this. What that skill set is really interesting because nobody quite knows. Is it a technologist? Is it an HR person? Is it operations? Maybe it's all of those things. In terms of usage, I think you've got to be open with your employees. You've got to brainstorm. We're actually putting together a series of workshops. Again, I will email people after this where we can actually we can do a brainstorming session with your senior management. We can actually go through some of the issues and figure out where the low-hanging fruit is within an organization. And this isn't just marketing, this is across the whole organization. Everything from the receptionist to the senior board level can benefit from this. So and the other interesting thing is that if you get what I call hackathons, there was something down here. This comes from the idea of coders who get together and solve a problem in a group. You can do this now with AI. Get everybody in a room and just whiteboards, sticky notes, get people to come up with ideas. And then you have a couple of people who kind of know what they're doing, the adults in the room, if you like, who can then facilitate and guide and help those people come up with solutions to their problems. Increase productivity, get rid of some of the boring stuff in day-to-day. And then that can be turned into SOPs, standard operating procedures. It can become part of policy, it can become part of reviews. So I think this is that, going back to that first slide of 18 months of nothing much happening, transitioning into real productivity gains, real impact on business. And this is the AI wave, if you like, starting to hit the corporate world. It's slow because there's a lot of friction. There's a lot of systems that need to be put in place to be reviewed. There's all sorts of issues around security, confidentiality, all of those different things. But hopefully you found that interesting. Does anybody have any questions? No questions. Everybody's complete. Yeah, Philip.
Before we had a question about how to plug in AI within for example, the WhatsApp, right?
Yes.
Essentially, it's a chatbot, right? How do you see this interacting with?
That's a really good question. This is not part of mainstream HubSpot at the moment, right. But it is possible to sort of hack it, if you like. So there is something called Operations Hub, And Operations Hub is a lot of admin tools that allow you to clean up data and all these kind of things. One of the features of it is that it allows you to call custom code in a workflow, for example. So HubSpot themselves did a test. And if you think about HubSpot as the inventor of the inbound methodology, let me give you a case study of that. The classic inbound method is that you have a landing page, you fill in a form, and then you get added to a workflow, right? You receive 3 messages which push you down the funnel, and eventually you sign up and you know, the world is happy. That hasn't changed much for 15 years. And if anybody's got it right, HubSpot have, they've fine-tuned their emails, nothing, you know, if you can give a room full of PhDs that as a project, and they might improve the process 1%, something like that, right? What they did is that they took that model and they put AI into the system. And what I mean by that is you go to the landing page, you fill in your details. Instead of receiving the same message customized, you know, dear Filippo, no, not customized like that. The AI would go off to your website. It would read your website. It would figure out what your business was about. It would go off to your LinkedIn profile. It would figure out what you were about, where you are in the journey. It would look at the history of your interactions with HubSpot and the business and understand where you are in that process. It's now got an idea of you, your persona, individually where you are, what your target is, what your goals and problems are. And it will write an email personally to you and then choose from a multiple series of destination points of what's the best solution for you at this point. And it might be that like they were experimenting sending people over to the academy or to sign up or anything else. It could be a plethora of things. And the uptick in results wasn't 1 or 2%, it was 80%. 80. It virtually doubled the conversion rate in the business. Now that is not available out of the box with HubSpot, but that's the model that we've used to build that chatbot, for example. And one of the things that we're working on now is to do exactly that. So to plug in an AI, so maybe as like the question was about messaging before, right? A personalized message, that could be go off and it could actually do some research. Now it's not easy because you have to go off and read those pages, and that's a cost for the AI and everything else, and there's a time delay. But if that kind of uptick in value is massive. Some of the clients we have literally have millions of contacts that are just sitting in a database doing nothing, and you can't email 1 million contacts. But you could selectively work your way through them and send ultra-personalized messages, and that gets back to the question about personalization, right? Nobody minds if a message is actually targeted directly at me and has some meaning for me. I don't mind receiving messages like that. So that's where we're going, and that's where the future is, I think, with this type of thing. Yes, question?
Thank you, first of all, Clwyd, for the great insights that you have shared so far and the efforts you managed to put behind organizing this event.
You're very welcome.
My name is Sudhil, and I'm also running a micro agency. Being in the same shoe where you are, but of course, you have spent more year and managed to acquire a golden diamond button from HubSpot. My question is, now we are seeing entirely changed landscape with the emergence of new players. Like now we have Go High Level, and Salesforce has introduced this low tier, pricing models. And you mentioned about the kind of complexity within the pricing of HubSpot earlier, and now the new pricing scheme is already here as being.
Yeah, I mean that's the question is around HubSpot pricing.
Not the pricing, basically the changing dynamic
Yeah.
of the market around the pricing, around the platform, around the product itself. So there are so many moving pieces around.
Absolutely.
How we as a HubSpot partner / provider, can cope up with the change where there are so many substitutes available over there, and the customer is concerned about the total cost of ownership. I mean, you rightly mentioned it's the cost center for them, right?
100%.
So how to capitalize like on our prior efforts, which we have spent so far to build the capacity of being a HubSpot partner, whereas everything is changing around and it's hostile. Of course, we are not going to beat the Accentures and the Capgeminis with, I mean, with them.
It's a really good question. If I wasn't on stage being recorded, I might answer it in a slightly different way. But no, I'm happy to give my opinion, which is not popular within HubSpot. But also, the answer is also not clear. It is not obvious to me, and I don't think it's obvious to many agency owners or HubSpot users, the benefits of the new pricing model. I can talk a little bit in terms of motive, why they're doing things. And there's, like everything in life, there are swings and roundabouts. There's upsides and downsides in terms of the change. What I'm seeing in terms of trend is that HubSpot are concentrating more and more on the larger enterprise clients. They're definitely going after the Salesforce market segment. If you look at the enterprise level functionality, it has increased over the years. They put a lot more time and effort into that. If you look at how they interact with the partner network, they have much less, I wouldn't say respect, that's not quite the right word. They listen less to the smaller partners and to smaller companies. And I say that with love for HubSpot because we've worked with them very closely over the years, 8 years, and much of our success is based on the fact that we've been able to deliver HubSpot functionality. We do like them, and any kind of criticism is still based on the fact that I still think they're the best platform out there, despite certain trends. But they have become bigger. They're a $30 billion market capitalization company. And when a company grows to that size, the way it operates with partners and companies and clients changes. And we've all got to navigate that. The advantages are that the functionality has increased for everybody, including if you look at the free and the starter products, these are rich, functional, rich pieces of product. You can run a business on the starter product. It is incredibly powerful. Yeah. So big shout out to them in terms of their capabilities. I think you're going to see a lot of agencies merging. I think you're going to see a lot of agencies struggling. I think you're going to see more integration partners, and we're going to talk about integration after the break. So I don't have an easy answer to your question. All I'm saying is, in many ways, it's better for the community because the richness and capability is there, both from the free and starter product all the way up. I think one criticism I would probably have is that there's always been and still been this massive jump from starter to professional. And it's really quite painful to go from paying like $50, euros, pounds a month to 500 or 1,000. There's a big jump. The pricing model change involves, interestingly enough, for smaller companies, it can be quite advantageous. The license fees can come down because they've introduced a per-seat model within the marketing product. But conversely, for people who are using, have a lot of seats, and previously presumed that everybody could have free access to the CRM, that's gone away. And you now have to pay if you want access, if you want edit access to the data. So we're seeing some license fees almost doubling as renewals kick in. So I think it's a moving target. I don't think I have any answer to it. All I would say is It's a highly competitive market, and the whole market is going to be changed by this. If you think, I'll just give you one idea, and then obviously people need to have teas and coffees. HubSpot marketing automation, the workflow tool, is super complex. It's massively functional, rich. It does amazing things. What would happen if you didn't need it and you could just have an AI sit in the middle of all of that actually created these campaigns for you, generated content, generated ads, wrote the emails, A/B split tested the results, managed your budget? What's the purpose of Salesforce or HubSpot in that world? Because there's no differentiator in the product. And how soon do you think we can get to that space? With that in mind, otherwise we're just going to run out of time. Take a break, network, talk to everybody in the room. There's teas and coffees. I'm happy to talk to people one-on-one. Thank you so much.